with talking about women and their experiences in cities. So we talked about feminism and how and just talking about the topic of feminism, and now we're going to switch that into relating it to cities. So YouGov conducted a survey in the UK in 2019 about how safe men and women felt in typical urban experiences. These are approximate results. So 51% of men feel safe when going on a first date compared to 11% of women. I mean, you can see the stats up there. It's pretty telling. One stat that I didn't include there is 1 in 3 women take steps on a regular basis to protect themselves from sexual assault. YouGov conducted the same survey in the US and found similar findings. So in our previous webcast, our Brain on Perspectives, we learned that much of the way we view the world is based on our lived experiences. Based on these results, women experience certain urban experiences much differently than men. Due to this, it is far likelier that women leaders would place safety as an issue of priority when compared to a male leader. So, my question is this, and we'll start off with Beth. Do you believe that women experience cities differently than men? And if so, can you give me another example of how women experience cities differently?
Sure. And it'd be nice at some point to question the idea that just because women are in leadership, that they do a better job. I'm just going to park that we would do a better job. So I think the point is recognizing that cities are settlements that we make for ourselves, and they serve as an artifact to tell us about what we value, right? So, and I'll go so far as to say, you know, the cities that we live in North America, they'll just be simple, or Alberta, because I'm from Edmonton. I just spilled the secret. But let's be honest, our cities are designed by white, cisgendered, middle-class men. Not even designed by white, cisgendered, middle-class white women, right? Like it's a very particular thing. So the question, do women experience it differently? Yes. Are they designed by women? No. Are they designed with women in mind? I'm going to say no. The example of how women experience cities differently, one of the first things that comes to mind for me is just simply how we move. So if the city is designed post-war for single-family dwellings, so think nuclear family, which is also an issue because we're designing for the nuclear family, a mom and a dad and 2 kids. And there's lots of relationships out there that do not fit that. And thou shalt live in a suburb, which we've replicated long after the war ended. And thou shalt have 1 car. That's how it started. So husband and wife, 1 car, woman's at home, man's off to work. There are 2 startlingly different experiences of the city. So, but if we look at the middle class family, and I know I'm being very narrow, if you have the funds to have a 2nd car, then both the man and the woman in a heterosexual relationship can easily move around the city. But the experience of many women is not as like a nuclear family with 2 cars. So then the question becomes, how are we able to move around the city? What choices do we have? And in the vast majority of North American cities, which are so car-centric, are very exclusive, economically, physically, like all of it, for women to move around the city. So even look at, so let's say you have buses and train. When are most of them running? For people to get to work at certain times of day, which again is exclusive. So I'll stop there because I want to hear what Rachel and Lorelei have to say.
And yeah, that's a great point on how we've built cities to represent a way of life that doesn't exist really anymore. So yeah, great point. I'll move things over to Lorelei, and can you give me an example of how women experience cities differently?
Yeah. Yeah, and I just want to give thanks to you, Beth, for giving some perspective too, that cities can change and they're settlements that we make for ourselves. So what kind of experience do we want to have? And I think COVID is really helping us reimagine things. And as we're stuck out wherever we are, if it's the suburbs or inner city, that idea of complete communities. And for those of you who know some of my work, I've worked a lot with business improvement areas and how you experience the city through a built environment and how important that is to have an experience. And so the example I'm going to give is really sort of from a personal perspective. I have lived around the world. I've lived in Africa, South America. I've done it. I've adapted culturally. I've learned languages, and I've always felt quite confident. However, having young children has never made me more terrified in my life. I suddenly lost every skill set in Calgary because here I was running around looking for a place to breastfeed. Here I was looking for a place to change a diaper. I couldn't even move the stroller on a snowy day. And I can honestly say that how women experience cities may be different for everyone, but as a young mom in Calgary, I certainly struggled in ways that I never imagined. And it made me look at cities in a new way. And when my husband went off to work, that feeling of isolation, of like, here I am out in the suburb with a crying, screaming baby that I have no idea what to do with. And so I can say my lens has definitely been altered by becoming a mom. Thank goodness they're 8 and 6 now, so I figured out a few things. But what I can say made the biggest difference and how women experience cities that does make a big difference is connectivity. So if you can find people that you can actively connect with and you can find a way to work through the city, you can survive. But it doesn't mean the city's been built for you to survive, right? And so I love this idea right now of like this reimagining that can happen in this liminal space that we seem to be in with COVID.
That's yeah, I it's like when I think of when all actually some of you came on here onto the chat and stuff, and I started thinking about the way women experience cities. Nowhere did I ever think of breastfeeding. It was not top of mind. I'm sorry, but it was not top of mind, and that's so obvious now.
Sorry, Ron, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It
Yeah.
happens.
It is, and that's just an example, right? Of even when I'm thinking about the topic, and in a very real way, I cannot, you know. Anyways, I would like to now move things over to Rachel and hear what you have to say. I know that you're putting your little one. You had to do something with your little one. I forgot what you had to do, but I started thinking about how many men have come on our webcast and said, "I have to put my son or daughter to sleep." I don't think there's been one. So, so please, let's hear what you have to say.
I would actually just add to Lorelei's experience because mine is exactly the same. I don't think I viewed the city any different until I had a child. I lived in downtown Toronto. Um, my husband took the car to work, but I had the accessibility to, walk around, spend time with my son, and I did it in a stroller or a carrier. But when you talk about breastfeeding, I remember breastfeeding on a streetcar. I remember changing my son on a streetcar. And it's certain the design part of it, like how sidewalks are designed, if there's snow clearing, if there's ice clearing, it changes your day. And it changes your perspective and you view kind of your activity and it's more planned out. Whereas before a child, I never did that. I just went on my way. So I would say I believe there's that safety aspect. And I think it's very important and making sure that there's design related to safety. But I think there's also when we talk about inclusivity is around, women with children. And we talk about too as a population ages. I've seen many opportunities where, you know, there's not the proper snow clearing, so people can't get around with a walker, and people are stuck at home because they don't have that accessibility. So I would say it's very important that we look at kind of all aspects of it and have all the people at the table, so that, you know, when we're talking about designing cities, that, you know, everyone is included in the process because everyone is affected differently.
Yeah, I as I'm looking at the screen, I'm looking at number one, went on a first date. I now looking at this statistic, I'm just like, okay, I think I had a way different experience on my first date with my partner than my partner did. So like, I'm just like, you know, you start thinking about, oh man, like she was going through, you know, she was different thoughts going through her mind, I'm sure.